Well, today I invite you to join me. We're on our way up the Morse Mountain Road, headed towards West Dalhousie. Most people probably have heard West Dalhousie within the last year referred to in the context of the big forest fires and whatnot that happened out through here last summer. This pretty much dictated what Nova Scotia's summer looked like, and for most of the Annapolis Valley, it wasn't a very pretty one. We're going to take a little drive out here today, kind of see what's left for snow, as we're getting into the mainland portion of the province. You're getting up onto the main spine of the province, up on top of the South Mountain. So you're getting further away from the salt air, higher elevation. There's going to be a little bit of snow still left out here, but we'll still see how much of a fight spring is putting up. Down in the valley, spring is it feels very much like spring is winning, but when you come up here just a couple hundred feet higher, it's not hard to see. It doesn't take much of a change in elevation to change the air. The other day I tried to do a video, a driving video, and then I tried to do a walking video. Nothing really would just kind of work down in the valley. It was raining. When I took the dogs up on the mountain to do a walk and or drive, it was a very wet snow. So it's very much the elevation is what's is the key thing right now. And yeah, I seen people's Facebook posts this morning from other ends of the province up towards Cape Breton and Truro Way and even further. Still a little bit of snow falling, mixed snow, a little bit of freezing rain, but there's up around Mount Thom, you're getting a little bit more elevation again, so it kind of makes sense. But as you can see, there's still quite a bit of snow left in the woods. Definitely broken, but where there is snow in those shaded areas, there's definitely a few inches of it left. All we can do is wait and cheer on spring. Although I got a little bit of, I'm starting to get mixed feelings because I'm starting to see how much work I get ahead of me in front of me coming up with the spring and with my garden and everything, and getting my flower beds back to right, and not really worrying about them, but kind of curious to see what the time has done with some of this burn area out through here. It'll be interesting to do another drive out through here in a few months to see how much new growth is coming up through some of the burned areas. But I know when I was out through here in the wintertime, it was back before Christmas, it was quite different. You really couldn't prepare yourself for the drastic change coming out. Once you hit the town or the community of West Dalhousie, it was very noticeable. It was very noticeable how how the forest fire just burns. It doesn't pick or choose, it just burns. I was very much speechless through most of that video. I know my mother and father, they took a drive out here about a week and a half ago, I think it was, and their generation, this was West Dalhousie, Margarettsville, the small communities was where the fun was. Not the fun, but you know, the community hall dances and what like that, the square dances and things like that back then. I think it was quite an eye-opener and quite a shock when they seen just how vast and thorough some of the burn was. Starting to get into it now on both sides of the roads. With the snow cover in the fall and in the winter, wow, that's devastating. But I believe there's been some companies that's been able to come out and access some of the wood, because some of the wood was just, from what I've understood, was just kind of scorched. It burns so fast and moves on that it's very much burning the outside, and some of the wood inside isn't in that bad shape. But yeah, it's a sight to behold. To anybody that lived out here or lives out here and has lost their belongings or their property or their livelihood, so I know there were people with the garages that were completely decimated, and goes to the south just as far as you can see. It's so close to property. And then it burned right up to the road and across the road here, I would say. I've yet to drive down through Thorn Road. I will probably do that in some time. The Dalhousie Community Hall burned right up to the back of her. Mind you, the devastation is just heartbreaking. Just as I say that, we drive past just empty foundation with houses standing just feet away from where that foundation was burned to nothing. I couldn't even imagine. and it was close to being a reality for a lot of people in the valley. The only thing that saved a lot of us, I think, during that time, including some of this, was just the effort of the firemen, the quick response, as quick as they could. Wow. And frankly, it was the elevation. From here down to the valley, it's got to do what fire doesn't want to do. Naturally, fire wants to eat and go up. But all it was going to take was a few tenders with the right direction of wind. Like that bog and marsh is just absolutely burnt to pieces. And I might be wrong, but if I do remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that's how she came right up through, was right along one of these low-lying. It started further back away from here, a ways back in the woods next to another lake, and I think it ate right up through some of this low-lying stuff. And as you can see, this landscape from here to the south and southwest and southeast, to the southwest of us and to the south of us, it all wants to kind of go downhill. And it seems to have done what it naturally wants to do. Is it seemed to have eaten right to the upward terrain. But a lot of us down in the valley and surrounding areas, like my house is only, I think it's 6 kilometers away from here, in a directly north. Which isn't a whole lot of space when you really stop and start to process it. Thank you to all the firemen that did everything that they could do from all across this province and from the other provinces that chipped in. The water bombers, the skimmers, the helicopters, everything. Without your efforts, I don't even want to begin to think of what could have happened. I spent most of the summer fearing for what might possibly happen. I can't even begin to put myself in the shoes of the people who lost their houses or belongings. It really honestly is just a heartbreaking situation. And I've got mixed feelings about the clear cut that's going to take place. There's going to be a major clear cut from just behind Mickey Hill up through some of this area. It's a lot of old growth forests. There's a lot of protest going on about it, but I think there's a lot of mixed feelings regarding it. Some people think it's possibly a quick woodlot grab. on lands that are probably going to get extorted or exploited for minerals and mining in the near future. There's been lots of talking about mining and mineral exploration in behind the Annapolis Valley, specifically in behind Bridgetown up on the mountain, not too far from where I'm at the moment, and really not too far south from where we are. Alright, I'll put my seatbelt back on because this Jeep is impatient. Definitely a few potholes, just a couple. But the Jeep loves them. I don't know about that. Jeeps love a lot of things, but I don't know if any vehicle likes a pothole. And that just says it. Down in the valley it's +3. Right here it's -2. Just in that change of elevation you're getting, she's 5 degrees Celsius colder. That explains a bit of the snow. I don't like it anymore, but I'd say this is the last week for the snow. She's all plus temperatures for the next 2-3 weeks. And rightfully so. if you want some more of these videos with like the backcountry drive on some dirt roads, not so much just driving town to town, or maybe you want to break from a wharf or the beach drives or whatever, let me know in the comments some of your favorite places, or places that I might not know of, or somewheres you want to see that you may be curious of how it might get portrayed on video, or anything, because I love this province, but I by no way am going to claim that I know all the ins and outs and tips and tricks, or the special places to be and everything. Many of my days loving this province were from the view of the Bay of Fundy, looking at the shores and admiring. I didn't get to spend many summers on land and enjoying a lot of it. Which adds another little layer of why I like this channel and why it's been a positive thing in my life. Is it's given me reason and a little bit of drive to get up and not just waste my days, so to speak, navigating through chronic pain and allows me to get myself out and see some places and maybe connect with some people that I wouldn't have connected with, or find some places that I wouldn't have found or known about. So if there's a spot that you think that I might enjoy, or maybe you just want to share it so somebody else can enjoy it, and I understand if maybe you want to keep them spots or that spot a secret. I got a couple of those I'm just not ready to share yet. I want to get out through the old Victory Road. We used to go through that years ago when I was younger. In the back when a few of us used to have Jeeps. I used to have a Jeep Cherokee. The last time we went out through there, it was a really good snowstorm. We got going out and playing around in the snow. And there was a pretty good trail of us. Quite a little trail. Well, quite a little bit of water running through. Wow, that's pretty. Quite a bit of water running through there now. Somebody out enjoying a spring day drive, or maybe even going trout fishing. Trout fishing season opened yesterday for Nova Scotia. I see some of these spots, there's a couple of pathways beaten down. I'd say that's what he was doing a little trout fishing, but some of them bubbles back there, I bet you. I forget what I was saying now. Now all I can think about is Croton. Oh, oh, yes, out in Victory Road. Yeah, pardon me. But yeah, the last time we went out through there, it was quite eventful. There was way too much snow. And there was way too much snow falling. Because we ended up in quite a little fender bender with each other. I come around to turn and couldn't hold it on the road. Being a jackass when I was younger, I guess. Next thing I know, it wasn't long enough for me to even like get out of the vehicle or put my four-ways on or nothing, which wouldn't have mattered because before they could get turned on, my buddy come in. He run right into the back end of my Jeep. Then the guy behind him, he come right in and he run right in the back into his vehicle. It was all just boom, 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 and it was going around kind of a hairpin turn, and as you can imagine, we were younger, we were being stupid, so yeah. Once one of us had a little foul up, nobody had a chance or had given the chance or time for anything to happen. We were just lucky that nobody else was on the road, to be honest with you. I guess that's the stuff that you think of when you're 40 and not when you're 18, but that was, I think, the last time that I was out through Victory Road in the wintertime. I tend to save it for a summertime little drive now, and last year with the state of the woods and all the forest fires and the restrictions that were placed on everybody and not being able to go in the woods and whatnot, I never got through her last year with those circumstances, so kind of curious to get through it here now. The first day that the temperatures hit about 20 degrees, I'm popping the roof off of this Jeep, and that's where I'm headed. There's a few lakes out through there. Takes you right down through, and you end up out around Fed Lake Road or Big Lake. These are mostly roads that, well, my Jeep is stock for the most part, and well, I don't really know anybody else with a Jeep that would be willing to come get me. So I'm saving it to summer days when everything's a little bit more reliable. But I'm kind of digging this drive. This is kind of nice today. It's just enough little sunlight to come out and put a pop of color into some stuff. It should come through nice on the video. There should be some nice blues and some nice grays and whites in those clouds. That's one of the things I enjoy watching the videos back, especially the sunsets, is there's so many colors that the camera picks up that your eyes just aren't registering. The other night I shot video coming from Bridgetown over to Hampton and then out through Annapolis Royal, and I've got a low light mode, and when I was leaving Parker's Cove I switched it to low light mode to try to get, just to see, and it was more or less an experiment to see what kind of stuff would come up. and if it would be worth, you know, trying to do or replicate, say around like Halifax or anything like that with some lower light situations, if it would be worth shooting a video with the sunset or anything like that, or, you know, try out the setting while I'm home rather than do it 3 hours away from home in a situation I can't replicate. But I was quite impressed with the amount of colors that it picked up. Coming down through Granville Ferry, by all the gas stations and across the causeway, in all honesty, with the naked eye, it just presented itself as just your everyday evening where the sun had just set. Most of the color was out of the sky for your eye. But watching the video back, wow, the light purples and blues and colors that came out when I was just seeing dark sky, it was it was really quite beautiful. I highly recommend going back and watching that video. There's no commentary to it. It's just a drive with the ambiance of my Jeep and the motor, you know, just natural what you'd hear if you were driving in my vehicle with me. But it turned out to be one of my favorite sunsets. When I was in Hampton at the time, it didn't really... It was 50-50 of whether the sky was going to light up red and bright pink, or whether it was just going to be setting in with the darkness. Some nights it's not the pink. A lot of it depends on how far the cloud cover goes and how far down, hundreds of miles away, what that cloud cover is doing. And if the cloud cover further away is too low, then it just smothers out you don't get those pinks and the oranges and whatnot. Your sunset kind of fades with that yellow setting of the sun. But last night was something else. The later into the evening you got, and by the time that I got down to Young's Cove and into Parker's Cove, at Parker's Cove Wharf, it had really lit up. You could tell that it was definitely the calm behind the storm, and that we had numerous rainstorms run up through. And all that day, everywhere that I went, it was just a fail. If I went south to try to film, it was fail. If I went to the north over to the Bay of Fundy, it was a fail. It was wet snow and it was raining. Up on top of the mountain, it was snowing. Out in the valley, it was raining. Just every direction you went, it was just horrible. And it had been that way for a few days. But last night was one of those evenings where it just give it to you, and it made you glad that I never really give up on the evening. I could see with the clouds, if it just was going to part, it was going to be nice. And I kept trying it, and my very last attempt was taking the dogs for a little drive. We were just going to go for a little drive up to the lake. I was going to try to get a nice little, some color in the clouds. because we got a cabin up on the North Mountain, and it's got a veranda on it, a covered veranda, so I thought maybe I'd be able to use that and get some cover. But it was just, it was all snow and wet, and the squalls were coming in and cutting out what you could see of any kind of sunlight or anything coming down from like the Bay of Fundy area, so kind of scratched that idea. And in all honesty, it was quite wet and quite cold, so the dogs didn't really want to do much. We went for a short little walk, got quite wet, quite uncomfortable. Decided to come home, kind of threw in the towel, and when I got home and parked in the driveway and went in and kind of put my camera up and started cleaning it and drying it off and whatnot, I went to the kitchen to get a glass of water, and you could see just clear as day all the way, just the sun was setting. It was, I think it was about 35 minutes before the sun was actually set to set, so it would have been like 7:11. I think the time, I think it went down last night at 7:46, and I just grabbed my camera and I said, nope, I've tried it enough, not that I'm just not giving up today. And I packed it up, went over, and I knew that I had to get some gas because I had been running around like a chicken with my head cut off trying to get something started or trying to get a video going. So I needed gas. So I got the gas, and while I was getting gas, I set the camera up, and yeah, it just really couldn't have set up for a better evening. It was a little bit late. You know, I didn't get the sun actually peaking or setting, I guess, but I got the colors. When I actually did get set up, the sun had already gone down. It hadn't set yet, but it had already gone below the crest of the North Mountain, and I was still in the Annapolis Valley by Bridgetown. Actually, I was in behind the Bridgetown gas station. Just got a little bit more elevated view from the highway just to see what kind of time frame I was working with. And from there, I just kind of rolled the dice on it and said it'll be what it'll be, and and if it's not, then I'll get a little bit of it, because just that section of the evening from like 7 o'clock until 7:30 out in the valley was absolutely gorgeous. But I think I got to Hampton about 10 minutes, about 7 to 10 minutes after the sun had officially set. And I'm glad that I didn't just throw in the towel, because it was a real nice sunset. The bright pinks that were over top of New Brunswick when I was down in Parker's Cove on the wharf it was something else. So make sure you check that video out if you haven't already. And if you have to, just skim through. Trust me, towards the end it gets really nice. And even some of the dark when I was driving through the dark. You might not have expected it, or some of it might not have been what you wanted or expected, but I was really pleased with how it translated out. The contrast between the dark trees and the silhouettes and the color in the sun in the sky, the dark silhouettes of the trees really seemed to make it a pop. One of those evenings that I'm glad that I captured it, similar to when I was in Cape Island last fall. Excuse me. But that was one of the more memorable sunsets for me. I don't usually get to see a lot of sunsets from the other side of the province usually. I mean, I've seen a lot of sunsets from the Bay of Fundy. A lot of just direct sunsets. A lot of times that I've seen the green moment. You should check that out, look that up if you're wondering what that is, but the very last moment that the crest of the sun breaks the horizon of an uninterrupted horizon on the sea, especially when the sea is nice and calm, you'll get what's called the green flash, and it's just a fraction of a second. And I've been lucky enough where I was the captain of a lobster boat, and I've stared into the horizon for many hours and into the sunsets for many moments that I've actually got to witness it a few times, and probably explains why I've got an addiction to sunsets and sunrises. Although I will say, now that I'm not fishing like I was, the sunrises are starting to be a little bit harder to achieve. So if you continue straight on this road, that'll take you right out to Bear River East and down into Bear River, Clemensvale. That's also a very nice drive. Is very full today. And that used to be a hydropower plant. It used to be a water wheel on the front of that. Sadly, I'm not too sure of when they took the wheel off, but just until recent years you could see what it was. There was the remnants of the paddle wheel out back from the old days and how it used to generate. Now it works on a turbine and everything inside of it, so 100% different. But it was kind of nice when it used to just look the part. Now it's just another brick building. what a view that house on the left, or on the right, that we just passed. What a view that place has. That used to be my uncle and aunt's house. For the majority of my life growing up, that was where they lived. We used to watch the fireworks, the Natal Day or Candle Day fireworks. We used to watch them from there, from their backyard. It was almost a better view than down in town. You were just closer when you were down in town. But to the right of us, we got the Fort View Golf Course. A very nice, very small, not small, but a very, very nice and quaint golf course. It's not nothing, you know, it's not nothing to PGA standards, but it's for the population of the town and just the tourism that it gets, it's a beautiful little golf course. Highly recommend if you are coming here for, you know, a few days or whatever. Or if you're just a local but you've never done it. I mean, that's where I learned to golf. The people are forgiving. No, it's not like, you know, what some people would consider uppity or super judgmental. A lot of people, like, in all honesty, there's a lot of people there that they're blue collar workers. You're just looking to have a nice day, nice afternoon on a day off. And basically for that's why I recommend it. And honestly, most of the golf courses through the valley and in this side of the province tend to be pretty forgiving, pretty relaxed pace. Which makes it kind of nice. Makes it nice to learn when you're in a spot where it's not everybody being so judgmental or jumping down your throat. Although when I did learn when I was younger, I kind of had a bad experience, but that was because I was young, and the group that I was learning with was young. I wasn't learning with adults. I was learning with youth, and they never taught me some of the etiquette / rules of the golf course. And yeah, my first time golfing, I ended up hitting the owner of the golf course. I hit their windshield of their golf cart while the wife was sitting in said golf cart. So the wife of the owner of the golf course, I just about give her a heart attack by hitting the windshield dead center, like it would have hit her right in the head. And it just, like, I just didn't know what I was doing. And they weren't even on the same hole as me. It was just, I was young, I was learning. It was an accident. The ball went the opposite, like, instead of going straight, it went it went off to the left. Like, hard left. So for quite a little time, I was fearful to even go back and do. I was fearful to just show my face there because I didn't think I was welcome. Needless to say, I got quite a little peeling from the owner, her husband, until he realized that I was not a member. I was learning. It was my first time, and it was 150% an accident. That, in all honesty, the only way to avoid it was just me not taking that shot at that time. So, yeah. Unless you're going to hit the owner's wife with a golf ball, you're probably going to have a good time there. one of those cases of, I guess, do as I say, not as I did. But we're coming up to not so much our destination, but a time frame that I gotta wrap this up and get to a place, which is, I guess, putting us to where our destination will be. But I hope you enjoyed the ride today. Hope you enjoyed listening to my I guess another one of my crazy stories from a time gone by. A couple stories really from when I was younger. But just to mention, nobody was hurt in the off-roading incident from when I was younger with the little fender bender on Victoria Road. The only thing that got hurt that night was pride and egos, and a couple tail lights for a cheap Cherokee, and the hatch, the back hatch. I think that was my introduction into fiberglass. And then later we ended up building a fiberglass boat. So, you know, it was, some good came out of it. I developed skills. But that's where we're going to end her today. It's been a nice day. It's been a nice drive. I'm kind of glad that I'm back down in the valley here and I'm not looking at any more snow, because I am 100% over with the snow. I appreciate it for what it is. And come October, just after Halloween's gone and done with, and we don't have to worry about kids trick-or-treating in snowsuits, I will be excited for snow once again. But until then, for these next few months, I think the switch has, I think the switch has been flipped for me in summer mode. 100%. I'm ready for summer. I'm ready for spring and all that it's got to hold. And with that, thank you for joining me.